Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Vicarage Road. Another lunchtime kick-off for Norwich City in the Championship this afternoon here at Watford. As we look to our right, we can see the away end, which is sold out, and we believe is going to host more than 2,000 Norwich City fans this afternoon. That is beginning to slowly fill up, probably the most full part of the stadium at the moment, although I don't think it's been open very long. And we are here, of course, to bring you the team news for this afternoon's game, Norwich City against Watford, Norwich, of course, hoping to record back-to-back wins. Watford, 1 win in 7. Paddy, let's before we go on to the team news stuff, let's get some transfer stuff out of the way. Interesting yesterday because I think, when we thought about Norwich City's window, I think we probably both felt that probably wouldn't be too much more going on, and then Johannes sort of drops in a 1 or 2 potentially.
Well, yeah, but I think we did sort of frame it at only 1 or 2 possible scenarios, and the second one being any encouragement with some of those summer targets. Now, when he went in, so the explanation for that sort of 1 or 2 soundbite, it was very clear it would be players that could get in, but really wouldn't be anywhere near it in his thoughts for the 11, but could adapt, acclimatise, get comfortable, and then from pre-season onwards kick on. So that's effectively his summer recruitment, isn't it? And I mean, you ran the line last night at the Peterborough lad, Emmanuel Hernandez, not Dennis, as I said, which is based on us arriving at Watford today. But he'd be a good player, actually. That's moving forward, and that feels like, barring any last-minute hitches, will get done. Where are we now? Saturday lunchtime. I think deadline day might be a good shout if I was a betting man for that Monday. So, and obviously earlier in the day, not immediately for the first team, but another development signing in Dylan Jones, who scored the 2 goals as a trialist midweek for the 21s in PL2 action. So plates are shifting. Yeah, obviously there's a byproduct of if they do the Peterborough lad, maybe it means affords Brad Hills the opportunity to go and get some loan football. Stockport, one of the clubs interested. So, I wouldn't describe it as a complete 90-degree curveball from Johannes, but having felt it was probably in a holding pattern and maybe we might be, sleepwalking to Monday night. It feels
someone very gently just pushing the window and putting the latch on, slamming shut.
I don't think we're still in slamming shut territory, but at least it's ajar now. That's the good thing. That's a good analogy, Connor. So, yeah, that's good. Makes our life a bit more interesting on deadline day instead of having to talk about who's been sighted in Morrison's at Riverside. And whether there's another one. I mean, he said 1 or 2. So if you take Dylan Jones out of the equation, maybe there's another one in the pipeline. Keep it locked to the Pink and channels. If there is, then we should know about it.
Absolutely, and we are seconds away now from learning the team news. It's going to be interesting to see how Norwich City line up. Obviously, we're expecting, and we haven't seen Onel Hernandez here today. It's his birthday, so it's happy birthday, Onel. And here is the team, so we will learn more in a second. This is how Norwich City line up this afternoon. Gunning goal, Fisher, Duffy, Doyle and Lucian Mahovo as the back 4. McLean, Jakob Sorensen and Emi Marcondes as the midfield 3. Schwartau, Dobbin and Sargent as the front 3. So I'll just run you through that again. Gunning goal, Fisher, Duffy, Doyle and Mahovo the back 4. McLean, Sorensen and Marcondes the midfield 3, with Schwartau and Dobbin on either flank and Josh Sargent down the middle. The subs bench is George Long, Brad Hills, Ben Krezene, Jack Stacey, Uriah Dudeje, AJ Bridge, Kennebo, Elliot Miles and Antti Sienat. So, I mean, he did say it would be a young bench, Paddy, and it is, but let's go straight to that midfield. Jakob Sorensen and a start for him this afternoon.
Yeah, an interesting one. And also, we were debating it as we came down in the car that, would Schwartau get the nod at centre mid? He was very composed, asked Giannis about him yesterday. And I think his answer was, well, he's still in that centre mid / right-hand side and you can see why he was going down that route because he's obviously shifted him to the right. Cernat drops out. The right of the attacking 3. Is that a response to what he'd also talked about in terms of Watford today? He described them as physically they're a very strong, robust, powerful side in the middle of the park. Maybe he feels in that environment, Schwartau in with Marcondes alongside McLean isn't quite the right mix to deal with that threat. Sorensen, if he stays fit, sorry Jakob, but he is a bit more robust. He's an experienced operator, so maybe in terms of setting the game up, he feels that Sorensen is a better option alongside McLean there to give him a bit of a foothold in there. Because what you don't want, we've seen it here in the past, in the recent past, they get a little bit overrun through the middle of the park. There was that game, wasn't there, where Dean Smith made 2 changes at the break. I think it was actually a rare sight of Isaac Hayden, and he brought Liam Gibbs off. And his reasoning after the game was that he felt they were losing the battle in the middle of the park. So, different managers obviously now for both sides, but maybe that is kind of still the DNA when you come here, that you need to be competitive in the middle of the park. And with Sorensen in and Schwartz shifted further forward, in Johannes' mind, that maybe is the thinking behind that.
Yeah, let's flick this up. This coming up from Peaky NCFC, Cordoba, ? Not in the squad this afternoon. And we know that there's been knee issues there. We obviously saw him last weekend. It's a concern again, isn't it, that we're looking at a matchday squad without Jose Cordoba, and obviously we know Onel Hernandez, as he told everyone, has got a slight knee issue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with Cordoba, there was certainly no sign of that from Johannes, but we'll let him off because he had to answer about 15 other players' fitness issues. So maybe
he was a bit frazzled at the end.
Well, I think he actually said, didn't he, jokingly, he'll have to bring a sheet of paper to these pressers, which wouldn't be the worst scenario because I think he may have forgotten about Jose Cordoba. We won't second guess why, but your thoughts do go back to that knee issue, which they're clearly managing. He's still feeling pain. They got him to a point where he could be on the bench and came on last weekend. This weekend, it's a different scenario, but we'll probably part that and get an actual clearer sense from Johannes after the game. But you would think, it is still more of that, and that is zooming out a huge concern because we've seen that with Nunes, we've seen it with Gibbs. Even now with young Forsyth, they're not getting the other side of whatever these issues are that are restricting these players. And, it looks like they're looking to do a bit of movement in and around the centre-back slots, but Cordoba came in as their summer statement centre-back option. And through injury, through this knee issue, he hasn't been able to establish himself. And that, moving forward, is a concern because they clearly committed to him in terms of outlay and, contract, that they thought he was going to be a key staple of this tore-up back line. That isn't going to happen until they can get the right side of this knee issue.
I smell burnt toast, by the way. I smell of burnt toast in my nostrils, but that's
wishful thinking.
Maybe it is wishful thinking. Yeah. Callum Fisher, let's go to him. We've seen that right back change so often this season. Games where he's favoured Callum Fisher, games where he's favoured Jack Stacey. Today it's Fisher. How much of that do you think is maybe down? I'd have to look at the reverse game now. I haven't got it in my head, but I'm pretty sure Fisher maybe did start in that one or play in that one. And he spoke about how important the build-up was from the back in that game and how successful it was from a Norwich City perspective. You just wonder how much that's maybe come into his mind because there has been certain games, particularly away from home, recently he's been more minded to start with Jack Stacey, hasn't he? And then drop Fisher into it. So just wonder whether that's a factor today.
Yeah, funnily enough, Cordoba, talking about him in the last segment, he started with Duffy, Fisher and Callum Doyle was on the left-hand side that day. I think that's probably a factor. I mean, he said, didn't he? He watched the game back at the start of the week in terms of his prep, and he was almost taken aback by how well they'd performed that day at Carrow Road, 4-1 win in September. Caveated it with, there'll be different players involved today, or not involved, sadly, and in Nunes and Sainz's case, they were both on the score sheet. Add Cordoba to that list now. But Fisher was involved, he did start that day, and maybe that, as you rightly say, Connor, we know how important it is for them to set the game up in terms of progressing the play. And they caused Watford a lot of trouble that day. So you'd expect to see the same again. Callum Fisher stepping into midfield, inverting, and giving Norwich that control, which proved quite successful at Carrow Road.
And it's a big nod again for Lucio Mahovo, isn't it? Because it's one thing having the first start, we know, and we've seen with young players, the second one can often be a little bit more difficult. You haven't quite got as much adrenaline and maybe sort of nervous energy around you. And it can be more difficult sometimes to perform. But again, and we spoke about this last week, it goes to show just how much they think of that man. The fact that they are willing to drop him into championship games away from home at the stage that he's at in his career.
Yeah, I mean, there's absolutely no nod to this might be too much for him to go away from home. But to be fair, I mean, he
physically.
Yeah, physically. I'm just thinking back to prior to last weekend, Sheffield United, albeit that was from the bench. Johannes clearly felt he was mature enough, had the personality to go into that environment, and that was a very testing environment as well. As they tried to chase that game down against a very aggressive side in Sheffield United in terms of the physical element, and he stood up to that and almost seemed to enjoy it and relish it. Was demanding the ball off Shane Duffy within minutes of his arrival. So, off the back of what he showed last week, I think that's a good call. I think there's a young man who. It's all upsides with him at the minute. There isn't any scars. He hasn't felt the negative element of being in a first team picture. So he's fearless. He'll be just relishing the games and the opportunities. So, and if it doesn't quite work for him today, then okay, it's all part of his learning and his development curve, isn't it? And really, let's be honest, if the alternative, looking at that 20, is Krzeni, and I think of those two, I think Krzeni's form had just started to dip for me. Sheffield United particularly that day. So, of the two, for me, Mahovo is the right call. Yeah.
Yes, agree. We might be able to bring that Watford team in a moment. Can we do it now, Adam? We can, and thankfully I can't show it now because you flashed the team up. But I've got a very good pronunciation sheet, so I'm going to get all of these right this week. Jonathan Bond starts, although I've got to find their squad number, so I don't know if I'm involved with all that hassle, to be honest. Larouchia, Mankwa, Pollock, and Andrews the back four. Loser, Deli Bashiri, and Sissoko as a midfield three. Kayembe on the right, Bayo down the middle, and then Georgi Shakvitadze.
Good one.
Go. Well nailed that. Thanks to the Watford guys for that isn't just for me, by the way. They were giving them out to everybody as well. Their subs bench is Igor Selvic, who of course was linked to Norwich City earlier in the month, joined yesterday from Udinese. Of course, same owners as Watford. Ngakia, Serialta, Keban, Porteous, Ince, Dumbia, Morris, and Adu Poku make up Watford's match day squad. I mean, I remember from that Carrow Road game, he was very good, wasn't he? I think he was played more centrally for Watford that day, but he was very, very good that day. I remember one run in particular. I think it might have been when Hernandez actually did his hamstring, wasn't it? And he burst through the entire Norwich side that day. Just to go back to Norwich though, Pad, I know we've spoken about Josh Sargent a lot, and we all know what his impact does to it, and we'll look maybe at the options or lack of from the bench. But he nice stat for people. He scored more career goals against Watford than anybody else. I think it's 4 and 6. Is that right? Yep. So that's and obviously who could forget that night here under probably the best it got under Dean Smith.
Did he mean it? No, did he mean it? Did he mean it? I'm posing the question. Did he mean it?
Well, I think he meant it in that he's tried to make connection with the ball and it's gone. But okay. Did he mean to do that exact thing?
The aesthetic beauty of it, probably not. But yeah, what I mean, there was a good improvisation from, dare I say, Adamida at Villa Park midweek. I'm not sort of drawing a parallel, but just in terms of strikers who were able to react to the trajectories of different balls. But yeah, it was a fine finish, and they were very good that day, weren't they? Was it 3-0 that night?
Yes,
I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah. You're not too confident there'll be a repeat, O'Connor?
No, we'll come on to that. But Sargent generally, I mean, we when we talk about Norwich, and obviously we were talking in terms of the attacking threat a couple of weeks ago. They do look transformed, don't they? They do look a different team with him in it.
That's just his presence, really, on the pitch, and for the opposition as well. They will know, those Watford defenders today, that this guy's pedigree at this level is, you don't even need to debate it, and as a result, that will change the mindset, maybe from a dare one say, an anti-Cernak leading the line, or if he'd been available on Onel Hernandez, and then it's the impact he has on his teammates. If you're certainly maybe the two players off him, in this case Dobbin and Schwartau, that there's a real focal point that if you can get the service into him, he will finish, because his record tells you he's a finisher at this level. Likewise, those midfielders, they will know, Kenny McLean and Sorensen and Marcondes, that if they can thread the right service through, and not even so much that, but the fact that they can play it into him, the defenders, they can play it into him, knowing it'll probably stick, and that they can build and get a platform and get up the pitch. So on every level, pressing out of possession, how he leads the press, he's just, at this level, he's class, and within the Norwich squad, he's indispensable, let's be honest.
He is indeed. Just looking at our bench again, I'll run through the names because I know it's just the starting 11. Norwich's bench today: Long Hills, Krzeni, Stacey, Jeji, Bridge, Abbo, Miles, and
leave you on Abbo though, Connor. We're right in saying if he got on today, that would basically mean he can't go out on loan.
I believe that's correct. Yeah, because you can be registered to 3 clubs, but you can only play for 2. I'm pretty sure that's the way in a season. He's already played for obviously Stevenage, so if he makes any appearance for Norwich City, I'm pretty sure it would rule him out from going out on loan. So even though he's on the bench, I probably wouldn't expect him to feature. And I guess this maybe lends into the conversation about Cernak and why potentially he's not starting today. We know they need to manage Sargent's minutes, and I think we saw last week that can be a really effective option to have. And he's played a lot of football. It's not the worst thing in the world for him either.
Well, you know what? I can't lay any credit for it, but
go on, take some credit.
No. Just in terms of Cernak, when he came on in that cameo, obviously there was the goal he scored, there was the shot against the bar that dropped down, and the pass for Sargent. Yeah. But he was also, as this reader quite rightly pointed out to me, if you look back at Dobbin's goal, he made the run to take away the defender to open up space. So he had a pivotal impact on 4 of those goals. Now that's the sort of end product that I think most Norwich fans, looking at the price tag and with the caveat it's not down to him, the two clubs agree, but it does bring its pressures on his shoulders. But when you come in for that price tag, that's the level of productivity you would expect in this division. It's not the Premier League, it's the Championship. So I thought Johannes was good in his explanation that maybe because he was coming into a game where it's open, it's stretched, defenders are tired, he's got more space for his actions to be successful. That really paid off. And you just hope that that's the thinking today, that if the game's in the balance, you introduce him and he can have that impact again, because if he does, there's a fair chance Norwich gets something from this game.
Agreed. I mean, in terms of the bench generally, obviously we've spoken about Brad Hills. Our expectation would be that he leaves the club on loan before the deadline, all being well. Obviously, Crozene and Stacey have been around the first team. JJ hasn't made a senior appearance. AJ Bridge, who someone has asked, they signed from Middlesbrough. It was on deadline day, wasn't it? In the summer, I think. Just a development signing, midfield player, quite neat and tidy from what I've seen of him. Obviously, Kennebo, we know a lot about. Elliot Miles, who's only just turned 18. There's AJ Bridge. It's a young Norwich bench, but this is probably the last game, isn't it, that we're going to be talking about a bench that looks a little bit like this, because against Derby, hopefully, and Johannes teased it, we'll be talking about Anis Ben Slimani. He mentioned someone else as well, didn't he? Who else did he mention?
Just report tomorrow. Yes, that is Phil Hart's fifth game.
Yeah, that will obviously be Sainz's last game. Jurasek could be on we'd expect him to be on the bench next week. And Nunez is the other one, of course. He might potentially come back into contention. So suddenly, if they add Fernandez to the squad as well, suddenly it looks a little bit healthier.
Well, I mean,
considerably healthier.
Let's roll it on to Carrow Road next week. Yeah, don't worry about this game. Yeah, Slimani, Nunez, Jurasek probably into the 11. Yeah, that's big.
Sainz to come back.
That is big. After the game after. Yeah. No, Johannes was pretty clear, wasn't he? When he said that, this will be the youngest bench. When he thought, well, hold on, we go back to Sheffield 2-3 weeks ago, and you had 6 players who had a start between them, and Mahobo and Miles came on that day. I think he's right. I think certainly with the addition of Bridge, allied to Miles and Abo.
Well, we're looking at what Stacey...
We're splitting hairs, really. I mean, you've got Long, Stacey, Cernach, haven't you? So maybe it isn't quite as young as Sheffield.
Long will bring it up a bit, I think.
Yeah.
Naturally. But in terms of outfield, it's a very young bench.
And the problem is, with the greatest respect to those lads, it's only... I mean, Stacey could change the game in a certain way in terms of what he could offer going forward. But other than him, it's Cernach, really, isn't it? There's not a lot else in that bench should they require to alter the course of how this game is panning out. And that's, I think, probably where Johannes was framing it, that this will be another difficult afternoon. But after this one, and we've just touched on it there, after this one, with a fair wind, when that team news drops Carrow Road next Saturday, it could be very, very different looking 11.
Provided no one else does anything.
Well, yeah,
which is the great imponderable. Right, that probably... Oh, no, we haven't done our predictions, have we? Sorry, I do. Someone asked what our prediction record was earlier. I haven't worked out. It would be atrocious, I can tell you that. So, Paddy, on that, with that...
Not atrocious.
It'd be pretty bad, I think. I think we're pretty good outcome-wise.
You wouldn't be making any money if you backed our predictions, but I don't think it's atrocious.
How's it going to go?
Difficult. I'm not really getting the sense to come down on any of the three sides. I fear that it might, because of the lack of depth in the 20 today, and obviously we've not discussed Watford, but they're in desperate need of a win. 1 win in 6. They've slipped out of that playoff situation. There's all this seemingly from afar smoke around Tom Cleverley and is he the man going forward. We know it's a club that doesn't mind changing the manager, so Norwich could tap into that and then it pulls the result their way. But if it galvanises Watford and those players come and play for him today, then maybe they just fall the wrong side of it. Maybe a 2-1 home win. You, Connor?
Yeah.
Bearing in mind what you told me before we started recording.
So I agree with your point. I think it's going to be tight, and I could see there being not much in it. But yeah, I'm with you. I feel that Watford are going to edge it, and I think they're going to edge it 2-0. I will say that is where I am. We're not feeling very positive here, so hopefully Norwich City can provide that positivity.
I could see 2-2.
I think I could be easily persuaded anyway, to be honest. Just to tie this comment about Onel Hernandez, no, that's a knee issue. If you go on his TikTok, he's put on a big picture of a swollen knee, so you can go and see that. I think that's a training issue, but. Of course, we will ask Johannes about it. It is his birthday. It's also my sister's birthday. I better mention that, otherwise I'll get in trouble. So she doesn't like football, so she won't be watching. But happy birthday to her. And yeah, we can see that. I mean, we've got a really good spot here at Vicarage Road. It's quite rare, Paddy, in terms of press boxes, that we're so close to the away end. It's filling up nicely. And they will be hoping, hoping and expecting a performance today. Just as the final point,
they will. Yeah, I'm saying to Adam actually. I'm not averse to coming to Vicarage Road because it's one of those enclosed stands, the four corners, a bit like West Brom, And I think
here's a question for you. This is a random. Someone will know the answer. Why'd they have a moose on that badge?
A moose?
Yeah, it is a moose, isn't it?
It is a moose. Yeah. I don't know.
They're the Hornets, aren't they?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I've never really given it much thought.
Someone Google that and let us know.
Yeah, no, there must be a reason for it. Must be something to do with maybe the municipality of Watford and Hertfordshire. I don't know.
As Adam said, I don't know if there's many wild moose walking around Watford.
Maybe back in the day there was, before there was any stands or buildings or whatever. But on the front of buildings, I always like it's quite atmospheric here, and because you've got that enclosed away support there, good turnout, 2,000 or so we led to believe. You normally see goals here, don't you? So, hopefully, as Johannes said, that they get plenty of... Adam's got a reason why it's called a moose.
I'll bring Adam in. He's off camera. Just read it to us, the reason about the moose.
So the club's nickname remains, but in 1978, the Hornet crest was replaced by a depiction of a hart, a male red fallow deer on a yellow and black background, a hart that represents the town location in the county of Hertfordshire.
There you go. You come for the team news, and you end up with history about Watford's badge. So
we just put Tyler out? No, there'll be no danger of John Rowe coming back. I don't think any time.
No, it's an obligation. So unless Marseille go down, and I think they're second at the moment, that will happen. Yeah. So there's no route out of them. So it would be activating that then with obviously a route, I guess, to
whether he's back in England by the end of the season. That's a different matter. But it won't be that he comes back and Norwich don't get the dough. The dough is somewhere between Marseille and Norwich, just in a holding bank account somewhere, ready to be deposited. And probably John Rowe, in short order, the way things are going, maybe following the money back to England, but who knows where his destination is. I don't see him arriving at Carrow Road as a player next season, that's for sure.
That would be quite well, not as a home player anyway, maybe not as a opposition one. Anyway, that's a nice place to leave it. Thank you very much for watching, let's hope Norwich City can back up what they did last week against Swansea and give hopefully those 2,000 Norwich City fans to our right something to shout about. Pinkin.com, of course, the place to go. We'll have all the coverage, all the analysis, all the reaction to this afternoon's game. For those of you watching on X or anywhere really, and you want to come and join some post-match debate, our colleague Sam Seaman will be hosting an X Spaces where you can get in there, you can give your opinion, you can speak to Sam, we can just listen if you want to some match reaction. It's about 3 o'clock we're looking at that, aren't we, Adam? So basically full time. Make sure you can go over to our X account now, and there'll be an option to set a reminder on there. You can do that, and then you'll be guaranteed not to miss it. Thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you again very soon.